Right, thank you very much. Right, evening everybody. Thank you for joining us all so promptly. So as we've already understand it, then we're live and we can attack the agenda. So do we have any apologies, Hannah?
Yes, we've had apologies from Councillor Hanley and our independent person, Greg Robinson. And that's it, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hannah there. Right, councillors, we have the minutes of the meeting on the 29th of June.
Chair, could I just come in at this point? Would it be okay for Hannah just to take a roll call of members present at the meeting?
Oh, yes, yes, sorry, yeah, yes, of course. Far away, Hannah.
Chairman, when Hannah's done that, can I just say a couple of words before we start the meeting as well?
Yes, thank you, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. So I'll just read out names and, as usual, make your presence known. So, Councillor Barrett.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Liss.
Councillor Liss is here.
Yes, I'm awfully sorry about that. I picked up the wrong mouse. Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Mercer.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Noland.
Present.
Great. Councillor Place.
Here.
Thank you. And Councillor Wheeler.
Present.
Great. Thank you. That's it, Chair, from me.
Right, thank you. Right, so moving to the minutes then.
Sorry, Chair, can I just say something before you do the minutes?
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah.
It's just a warning, really, members, on the use of the camera, which is obviously on all your laptops. Please do not forget that if you leave doors open, the camera will look straight through and will observe whatever is going on. And certainly we don't want to be embarrassed by anything that maybe you wouldn't wish the camera to see. We have had incidents of this nature, so I will be sending round an email tomorrow to all members. But please, please, please be aware the camera does see everything, and this is going on YouTube. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for that. Does anybody want to make any adjustments in the light of that? Okay. Right, are we free then to move to the minutes, councillors? Any comments on the minutes? Any amendments, changes? No. We can move then to moving the minutes. Is everybody in agreement then that the minutes held on the 29th of June are a correct record? Please. Do we need a hand show on that one, Hannah?
We can do. That's helpful.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to try using your electronic hand or? All right.
I don't think we should be taking electronic hand because it won't be visible to people watching on YouTube. Okay. I think a just quick sort of wave of the hand for members present in terms for the minutes, I think would be sufficient.
Okay, right, members, just please indicate then if you're in agreement with the minutes. Yes, I think that's a full house. Right, thank you for that. Public participation presumably doesn't apply this evening to our meeting. Any declarations of interest, members? Right, okay. Right, so moving then to agenda item 5. Thank you to Alison for joining us. We have your report. And I think, Richard, you are looking to introduce the report to us.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I'll just give a brief introduction and I'll hand over to Alison from Internal Audit. So, evening, everybody. The report on the audit plan for the current year. I just wanted to say it's been as we all know, slightly unusual year this year, and that is reflected in the nature of the audit plan. So we've taken an approach this year that we, along with other councils and the wider public sector and many other organisations, are having to reassess our risk profiles and focus on certain elements that on a more cyclical audit plan may not necessarily be due immediately, but because of the nature of what's happening, and in particular, if we look at the the best part of £25 million of business grants that have been processed via the council recently, that was an item that just wasn't on the horizon 3 or 4 months ago. So the plan that's in front of you for consideration is really very much focused on responses to the current situation, and then picking up on a number of other projects that were due for review per the previous audit plan. And then going forward, the intention would be to have a more cyclical plan that takes account of a risk-based approach to service provision. So at that point, I'll just hand over to Alison. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. Alison.
Yeah, I can only mirror what Richard has said. We have had discussions in relation to this plan for this year, which was more unusual than any previous year ever. I've had discussions with Richard, obviously in his role as the Chief Finance Officer, and Paul Shevlin as the Chief Executive. And we think, or we consider, that the plan that we are proposing is going to give the external auditors the assurance that they need, and members of this committee the assurance that they need going forward, that we can give that assurance that where the higher risk areas are now around COVID-19, we can offer that assurance based on the work that we're giving. So the purpose of this report is obviously to propose the internal plan for consideration and approval, which is the main basis. The public sector internal audit standards, the Chief Executive must give an overall opinion on the adequacy and the effectiveness of the internal controls. That would ordinarily form part of the annual report, of which we will address presumably the next agenda item. So I must apologise for that in advance. But the 2021 internal plan must therefore include a sufficient range of audit work, and which we do believe through discussions that we have given sufficient scope. So the draft plan at this stage has been developed in consultation with members of the corporate leadership team. It considers the risks of the authority, the corporate priorities, COVID-19, and proposed audit areas identified by the Institute of Internal Auditors, and obviously the recovery process of COVID-19, which we have to consider now. So I assume that members have had chance to read the report, so I'll just go on to the Appendix A now and briefly go through the intended audit areas. So we've got car park income. This formed part of the 3-year cyclical audit review. We will try and look at the assurance on the adequacy and effectiveness of the internal controls, but we will be giving particular consideration to the COVID-19 closures. It was part of the cyclical review, as I've said, and after discussions with Richard, we've discussed that this will hopefully take part in Q4, just to give the car park opportunity to obviously re-establish itself and give us something that we actually can look at and give assurance on. Payroll again formed part of the 3-year rolling programme. Focus again will be on the accuracy of the new self-serve system. This originally was a 15-day audit potentially, but after discussions with Richard and myself, we've agreed that we will put less days in this year to look at it in Q3 and maybe revisit next year. Business continuity and disaster recovery, obviously extremely topical at the moment, unfortunately, and we would like to give assurance, and I'm sure we will be able to give assurance on the internal controls in place, how Craven reacted to the pandemic, and how all the operations, you know, were successfully delivered throughout the period and the recovery thereof. We've got 30 days in the plan for the post-business support grant verification work. This is to give assurance that the business support grants, which Richard has already mentioned, a substantial amount of money has been paid out, and we would like to give assurance, therefore, with the post-payment checks, that they've been paid accurately within the expected time frame, and recovered where and if required. We have used data analysis to help us with this. We've been involved with local government and central government software. We've used Spotlight, CIFAS, IDEA, and there is data matching ongoing now as we speak with all other local authorities. Procurement assurance and contract procedure rules, again, to give assurance on the adequacy and the effectiveness of internal controls in relation to the contract procedure and awards. Risk management review. This is something that Richard and I did discuss prior to the publication of this report. We feel between the two of us that it is a key process. It does underpin the achievement of the council's objectives and priorities. Richard and his team are working very, very consistently throughout to update the risk management process, and it's something that we feel that we could either audit or assist. So the days that we've actually allocated to this are subject to change, and I dare say that a future committee, if this does change, that we can comment on that one. ICT data security is to give assurance that the internal controls are strong and present. There is increased evidence of control, unauthorized access and exposure to ransomware, breaches of information security arrangements, and use of suppliers that have weak security arrangements. I think members are probably all aware of all the evidence that we've read on the internet and through the news, that we need to be very, very aware and give some kind of assurance that our ICT data security is substantial. Climate change is a topical audit that has been raised for the last 2 years by the external auditors and the Institute of Internal Auditors. So we felt that this year potentially is probably a time where we should address this for Craven. Section 106, we've had discussions with the Chief Executive, Paul, just to provide assurance that the income is being received and is expended per legislation. There's been some changes around the staffing and management of the area that looks after the section 106. So we just want to give assurance that everything's working okay. In regards to VAT, there was a couple of audits last year, and I think one in the previous year, that identified some small areas in relation to the VAT. So again, in discussions with Paul and Richard, we've agreed to include that on the plan this year. The contingency, obviously, we've got 20 days there. We had an investigation last year whereby we were in the position where we had an audit that didn't go ahead, so we could use those days for that investigation. So it's usual practice within an audit plan to have a set of days for contingency in case we have either an investigation that we need to look at, or whether a situation arises within any service areas that may require some more internal audit input. So we always keep the 20 days in there. And then the duplicate payment work is an annual thing that we do every year. We just run the data through and we do checks to make sure that there's no duplicate payments, report back to the finance section. Follow-up of previous audit recommendations is a standard 5 days. We don't actually report back on the outstanding recommendations, but we do work closely with the team that do. And that is a regular report that comes to this committee through, I think Richard and his team report back on that one. So the overall audit days are 180 with the contingency of 20 if needed.
Okay.
So I think that's it from me, Chair. I'm very happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Alison. That's very comprehensive analysis there. And I think the programme looks, well, exciting is not quite the right word, is it? But I think there's some real changes in there that will be extremely interesting to see how you approach them. And on that basis then, members, can we vaguely just go through everything that Alison has said and pick up any comments on the particular initiatives that she's mentioned, but just to kind of keep the thing a bit under control, shall we just go from the top again and just make sure any comment anybody wants to make on that particular block is just picked up and noted? So looking at car park income again, and obviously this is a pretty key one given the loss of income in the year that's just ended, in terms of your approach to this one. Presumably this will be more than just, as it were, recognising that that income has reduced.
Yeah, obviously the income will have massively reduced, but what we need to look at there is what effect that might have on the budgets, how it was controlled, how it was monitored, and how it was reported.
Yeah. Any further comments, members, on that item? Okay. Payroll.
Sorry,
again,
I think Councillor Wheeler has got his hand
Yeah.
up.
Sorry.
I'm extremely puzzled. I have entered some comments in the chat. Am I the only person who didn't get the report for agenda item 5? And am I the only person that got the email to say that agenda item 5 was pulled from this committee meeting and being pushed to September?
Yeah, fair enough, Councillor Wheeler. Hannah or Guy? Obviously, I was aware that it had been pulled, but how did the word go out, Hannah?
I think my understanding was an email was sent to all members, and I'll do a quick check in a minute. An email was sent to all members of Audit and Governance to say that all the information wasn't available to complete the report, and that the report will now be submitted to the next meeting, which is scheduled for September. But I will do a quick check, Councillor Wheeler, to make sure that you were copied in on that.
I was, but so I'm just a bit puzzled why. What do we discuss? I'm puzzled as to. I thought we were talking about agenda item 5. I'm guessing it's number 6.
I didn't know we jumped to 6 as well. Yeah, I did get that email. I just thought we jumped ahead to 6. Okay. That's where we're at.
Councillor Liss is the same.
I think the confusion was, Chairman, that I'm awfully sorry, but you referred to item 5 as being the item we were going to discuss, and in fact, item 5. I mean, this is item 6, so item 5 isn't being discussed. So I think I was a bit concerned about that at the start, but as the discussion's gone along, I've understood that we are referring to agenda item 6.
And I picked up on that. because I did ask some questions in advance of this meeting for agenda item 6, but I didn't get an answer for those either. So I'm intrigued to hear what we're going to do.
Okay, well, at my request, Richard did kind of set the scene in terms of item 5 and then into item 6. But I accept maybe it wasn't entirely clear as we went through the process there. So just to reiterate then, agenda item 5 is deferred to our September meeting. All right. So we have focus now on agenda item 6. I think we need to just understand, make sure we've got the mailing list, etc., all sorted out as well on that. So as I say, we tried to just demonstrate the transition there between 5 and 6. But so if we just stick with the detail then of agenda item 6, if people are comfortable with that. Anybody want to? Thank you for raising it, Councillor Wheeler. I didn't realise we were not all on the same page, literally. Okay. On that basis, shall we just continue making sure we understand the contents of agenda item 6? Are people comfortable with that? Councillor Wheeler?
Yeah, can I ask a couple of questions? May I ask some questions regarding
Yes,
the
of
agenda
course.
item
Yes,
6?
of course. Yes.
Okay. Tell me if you can't see me, because I'm going to have to flick screens to my email.
Yeah.
So I did ask what changes are we going to make due to COVID-19? I think the
Right.
question.
Okay, so you want to move us on to that specific, or do you want to keep it more general? I don't know, Alison, do you want to?
Well,
pick that one up?
I emailed Alison on the 22nd with the questions, but I didn't get a response. So I'll ask them now.
Mhm.
The hell.
Happy with that, Alison?
Yeah, apologies for that, Councillor. I assumed that you wanted the questions answering at committee.
Okay. Oh, all right. Well, are you going to address each question then?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to address each question, yes.
And you've got the questions in front of you.
I haven't actually got them in front of me, but I can access them. But yeah, I am very familiar with the questions that you've asked. I just assumed,
Okay.
yeah, I assumed you'd put them forward for answer at committee. So apologies.
Well, I you know, if you'd have answered in advance, I probably wouldn't have asked them.
Councillor Wheeler, we're actually moving on, aren't we, in Alison's plan to that third box, business continuity and disaster recovery, and specific mention there of COVID-19. Do you want to raise your points now on that topic?
I could always send the questions via chat if you want.
Sounds a bit advanced to me. Right. Well, we can't put Alison on the spot too much at the minute. So Alison, perhaps we can just finish reviewing and seeing whether we've got other issues to come back to in detail. Just go
Thank
back
you, Chair. I am happy to answer the questions though, if that helps.
Yeah. Do you have them to hand, Councillor Wheeler? Is that the easiest?
Yeah, I put them on chat because I can get them on the side of the screen now. So I'll just read the email. It'd be a lot simpler. Alison, please advise what changes have been made to the allocated days as a response to the challenges generated by COVID-19. After ones that are obvious: car parking from 10 days, business continuity 15 days, post-business support, grant verification 30 days. And then question 1 was, how many of these days are specifically COVID related? Of these days, what audits have been knocked out to accommodate them? Question 3 was, will you use 20 contingency days to do the studies knocked out by COVID specific ones? And question 4, do you anticipate more COVID related days to add to the 180? If so, where? Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll try and answer all the questions in one response. There has been nothing identified that has been knocked out of the plan in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. We've just reacted to it very differently. We have included the cyclical fundamental audit still, but the work in relation to that may be more COVID-19 specific. I'm trying to think now. I'm trying to, there was about 4 there, wasn't there? And I do know what the questions are, so I do apologise. The only additional difference to the plan is the business support grant verification work that we've identified, and we've put 30 days in that. That may have to be increased, or it may not be. That will be something that is subject to discussion with management and members going forward. I don't consider personally that the plan has been adversely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic at all, and I do consider that we are giving a full assurance plan going forward. So I hope I've answered your questions, Councillor Wheeler, but if there's any that I've missed, please remind me.
Does that help in the?
No, that's absolutely fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Sorry,
you very much.
Chair, can I just add as well, just to
Yeah.
reiterate the point I made at the start, that ordinarily you'd work on a 3 or 4 year cyclical approach to how you'd apply the audit days. And whilst we've had to accommodate the special circumstances this year, the plan does include the higher sort of risk items, or the items that hadn't been audited for a number of years within the plan as well. And then for future years, we'll hopefully revert back to the more cyclical 3 or 4 year approach. So it's been very much done on a risk-based approach this year in response to what's happening, but nothing will drop off the radar completely. It just might be that some of those items, 1 or 2 of the projects that may well have fallen into this year, might have to be looked at next. But that's the only real implication.
Okay.
I agree. Thank you, Chair. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I, Councillor Wheeler, in just bringing that together, just make a general point, really, unless there's a very, very specific reason why not, it would be helpful to perhaps push your questions around on a wider. I spoke myself with Richard Way earlier on this afternoon, and at that stage he was not aware of any questions. So perhaps, unless I say you have a particular reason for not circulating an item, it would be really helpful if.
No, so I addressed the questions to the author of the report as it's advised in the report.
Right. Okay. Okay. Right. Does that close off that general COVID-19 and the item under business support grant verification that Alison has outlined? Yeah. Any comments on that? Moving through then, procurement, assurance contract procedure rules. This is quite timely for us in the sense that obviously we signed off the new procurement arrangements at our last meeting. Any comments on that specifically? No. Okay.
Just quickly, Chair, it is specifically there in response to the discussion at the last meeting, because there was some suggestion about some compliance work to make sure that the new CPRs are being applied properly. So those days reflect that discussion that we had at committee last time.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So moving to the top of the next page, then, the risk management review. I note that the risk management group did meet recently. Nobody was there.
Just again quickly, the reason it's there with some caveats around it is that those days are really to be applied if anything comes out of the risk management review that's particularly high risk that isn't already in the plan. Then we'd look to use those days to address anything there. So that's part of the approach of that risk management item as well.
Okay, thank you for that. All right. Any other comments on that topic? ICT data security, any further comments? Presumably we're all in the throes of upgrading our kit. Yep. Okay. Climate change. This one quite intrigues me in terms of the approach to this, which no doubt Alison will they're giving us more detail on, because presumably, Alison, you'll have the chance to look at other organisations and what they're able to, how they're approaching this, and at what on what timescale, really.
Yes, there is quite a lot of guidance out there and a basis for us to form our audit work on. It's interesting, and it's a new learning curve for us too. But it is something that I'm willing to obviously share with the committee, with the management involved. It is a very new area. It's very new and topical. But yeah, I think it's an interesting one, and it's one that I'm reasonably confident that I think Craven will we will be able to give some assurance with.
Yeah, looks intriguing what your approach will be, I must admit. S106, reasonably straightforward. Any comments? VAT, similarly. Yeah.
Yes, Chair, if I might, just in terms of VAT, we are perennially close to some of the thresholds that apply to local government VAT regulations. So, we're taking measures constantly to try to make sure that we don't breach those thresholds. But I think the purpose of the audit would just be to give some assurance around the adequacy of those measures, because a breach can be quite significant, financially. So it is quite high risk for us.
Okay, that's helpful, Richard. Thank you. Just leaving the contingency for the moment. Duplicate payments, on the face of it, relatively straightforward. People comfortable with that? On the final page then, previous audit recommendations, clearly important, and then management time as well there. So people comfortable. So just remind me, Alison, 180 days was the plan in the year that's just ended.
Yes, that's correct.
Along with the 20 days of contingency.
And the 20 days contingency is optional if required. 80 days are actually as part of the contracted shared services agreement, with the additional option for the 20 days. Yeah.
Okay. And did we use, just, I don't know if you know this yet, but did we use those 20 days last year?
No, we didn't. Unfortunately, and I apologise for this. The other report that I was supposed to bring to that today, that Councillor Wheeler referred to, was the annual audit report. Sorry, and I would like the opportunity to present that formally to this committee, but just for now, I can confirm that no, those 20 days weren't used last year.
Okay. Right, thank you. Any other general comments then before we would go to the recommendation? Yeah. Okay. So the recommendation, as you can see, states that the Audit and Governance Committee considers and approves the internal audit plan for 2021 as set out in the report and the attached appendices. Obviously, there's no cost of delivering the service set out in this report. Will we see that later on? Or is it part of a 3-year?
The cost, just to give members an indication, the cost for the 2019-20 audit year was, I think it was 53,000. So obviously there'll just be the additional normal raise, but if members prefer, I can deliver the price for this current year.
Okay, so what I think we're saying then is that we've had a chance to review all the items you've identified as needing to be in the plan and debated those to a degree, that it would be useful, so we accept that in the sense of your recommendations, would be useful to finally sign it off, as you suggest, along with the report that we would have had tonight, just to absolutely be sure of the financial exposure in terms of the work that you'll be doing for us. Is that Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, getting some nods there. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Chair.
Anybody else wish to comment, Richard, further, or possibly Paul? Content? I think Paul's gone.
No, happy, Chair. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So on that basis then, the recommendation is accepted. Okay, thank you, members. So we now move on to agenda item 7, update on the statement of accounts. Actually, we did have, has Mark from External Audit, did see his name flash up, but I'm not sure if he's there.
Yes, he is,
anymore.
Chair.
No, Richard, anyway, moving to you, if you'd like to take us through this item.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Mark outside from Mazars is on the at the meeting, Chair, just to confirm that. Thank you. Yes, this was discussed at the last committee meeting, and really is just to give the committee an update in terms of where we are with the 1920 statement of accounts. There's a requirement for the draft accounts for a local authority to be published at the end of May, and then certified, audited, signed off by the end of July ordinarily. That's changed this year in response to COVID-19, and the statutory deadlines for certification of the accounts have been extended. For Craven, that would mean the requirement to publish the draft accounts moves to 30th of September, and that the final sign-off and certification would be 30th of November. Members will recall last year that we had difficulty in achieving the statutory deadline, and that the accounts were certified finally in September. There were issues that we needed to address in terms of internal process, but there are also delays in response to national issues to do with pensions. But you know, we needed to make sure that our processes and procedures internally would mean that we could deliver the deadlines for the current year. And on that basis, we'd put a lot of effort into tightening those procedures up and delivering a fairly robust project plan for this year's accounts. So even so, the national deadlines have been extended in consultation with our external auditors. We agreed that we would just extend the deadline of the draft accounts publication by 1 month, so to the 30th of June, and that we would aim to complete the exercise and the audit by the 31st of July. I mean, it's pleasing to report at this stage that we are substantially there, I think, in terms of that process. But as the report sets out, as often there is with these things, there is another issue around pensions and pension valuations that isn't likely to be resolved until September or October, which means that actually the final certification and the signing off of the accounts can't be completed until that is resolved. However, we are hopeful that what we can bring to the committee in September is a substantially completed set of accounts, bar that one issue, and any resulting changes it brings to the accounts, but that we can have the auditors ISA 260 report and the audit report, again with the caveats around the pensions issue. And it means that the committee can get that in good time, that we can consider any recommendations coming from the auditor's report, and hopefully have some assurance that our internal processes and procedures have improved so that we can meet statutory deadlines going forward. So it's very much an update. The accounts are available on the council's website, and they have been since 1st of July. And that's also the date that we passed the accounts to the auditors to begin their audit work. At the time of writing, and yeah, I think as of today, unless Mark has anything to the contrary to tell me that I haven't picked up today, but I think it's still progressing well. We've still got some outstanding issues to address, but nothing substantial at this point. So generally, it seems to be progressing well. So that's the update, Chair. I'm happy to take any questions if there are, or if Mark, the external audit, has anything to contribute. Obviously, welcome comments from him also. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Richard. I think that's a remarkable achievement, really, particularly as reference has already been made to the massive amount of extra payments and so on that the team have been processing in the meantime. So, you know, many congratulations on that. Oh, is Mark there? Does he want to comment further?
Oh, Chair.
Oh, you're there. Hi.
I was hiding.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Basically, what Richard said is where we're at the moment. The audit is progressing, notwithstanding the impact of remote working. And we're certainly hopefully on course to get the ISA 260 report to you by September's committee. And as Richard's already said, there is a potential issue around the pension fund audit side of things. But other than that, there's nothing to report as of yet.
Thank you for that update. Right, members, any further comments from members on that? Right, I'll take that as probably not. I don't know if Paul's Chief Executive wants to comment further on any of what you've heard.
Just very pleased with the progress, despite all the challenges that finance and benefits have faced. They're still on target with their project plan, which Richard went through following last year. And, you know, I think it's a great compliment to Richard and the staff involved.
Excellent, thank you for that. Okay, so on that basis then, members, if there's no further comments, we go to the recommendation then on agenda item 7. This report for information, members asked to note the progress to date and likely certification date of the 2019-2020 statement of accounts. Are we all in agreement on that recommendation? Yep, getting lots of positives there. Right, thank you, members, for that. Right, I think then, unless there is anything else that has not been notified to myself or anybody else, that is looking like the end of our meeting. Is that the case? Okay, right, so Hannah, the date and time of the next meeting is?
Monday, 21st of September.
Yeah, okay, it's on the bottom of your agendas anyway. So thank you all very much for your attendance this evening, and thank you to our external Alison and to Mark there. Appreciate that. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.